Bernie went on MSNBC. Let's watch. And then we're going to watch him on The View, okay? If you're here to hear me say nice things about Bernie, like, get ready, because I'm probably going to be angry at him for being a coward and being too nice, as always.
Senator Sanders, welcome. Good to see you. I want to ask you about Wisconsin, but first of all, let me just ask you how Jane, how your children and grandchildren are doing up there in Vermont.
Well, I think like everybody else in America, we're in a very crazy situation. We've not been able to have physical contact with our 7 grandchildren.
Again, starting with a flex, dude. We get it, Bernard. We get it, bro. We get it, dude. We understand. You've had sex. You've had sexual intercourse. You have children. You've 7 grandchildren. I see how it is, dude.
You know, Andrew, we live in a democracy and people have...
Why is this the most scuffed interview on the planet? Is this MSNBC being this bad? I don't understand. Like, Bernie obviously has the capability of putting together a live stream. They do it all the time. They do it like once a week, pretty much. How the fuck did they fail so dramatically? It was kind of bad on The View as well. The audio quality is on him. It's bad on The View too. God damn, dude. I mean, come on. Do a better job than Joe Biden, dude.
Today is April 1st. Many people are not going to be able to pay their rents. They're not going to make their mortgage payment, their car loan payment, their student loan payment. And we have got to reassure those people that they are going to be okay. So to my mind, the United States Congress is going to have to work on a new piece of legislation which, among many other things, guarantees every American the continuation of his or her paycheck.
Part of the problem that other people have also pointed out, that the Democrats lost their leverage, and a 4th phase stimulus package will be really unlikely unless it is completely pushed by Donald Trump as an infrastructure package because he wants to get reelected, and they find some way to distribute most of the earnings of that back to large corporations that are involved in building infrastructure. That's the only way that I can see us having like a 4th phase package, outside of the very real possibility of like this crisis extending far into June and potentially post summer. If we start facing that reality, which is very likely, then of course there will be need for additional stimulus, like additional money that we need to give to the unemployed people of America. That is going to near 20% by some estimates, and even 30% by other more ridiculous estimations. 20% is still pretty high too, with a projected death rate of 100,000 on best case, 20,000 on worst case scenarios. That is a devastating number. Those are all awful numbers.
Now, also when this thing is over, if it becomes clear that we can get back to the election, Joe Biden, who said last night to Brian Williams that he's pretty confident about being the nominee and that the decision is clearly up to you as to what you want. He's made some concessions on tuition for students. What more do you want to see from Biden in order for you to make a decision to join the campaign?
And I think especially now, given the unprecedented crisis that we're in, it is important to talk about the best way to go forward. I think that debate is very important. And as I've indicated, I think that in this unprecedented moment, we need an unprecedented response. Yesterday's playbook is no longer relevant to tomorrow, either in terms of healthcare or the fact that there will be probably, according to The Economist, tens of millions of people losing their jobs in the next couple of months. What is the best way forward? How do we make sure that people are made whole? Right now, what I worry about is that there are people by the millions who do not have food in their pantries. How are they going to feed their kids? These are the kinds of issues that as a nation we have got to be talking about. And I think the answer will be an unprecedented piece of legislation.
I agree. I think Bernie Sanders staying in the race right now is more important than ever before. I mean, it was really important before as well, but now it's even more significant that he stays in the race, especially considering the fact that, one, the other alternative here, who has a better likelihood of winning the presidency, of course, or better alternative of winning the candidacy for the Democratic Party, sorry, not the presidency, an alternative of winning the candidacy is obviously in a state of mental decline.
Why? You're getting nervous, man.
Not doing really well, doesn't even perform well with like layup interviews. And then beyond that, maybe even more significantly, the nominee, the presumptive nominee, is very seriously advocating against Medicare for all in a time of a crisis. I think that right now, Bernie Sanders needs to be a strong voice and utilize his entire voter base as best as he can to leverage and to force the Democratic Party's platform. Now, do I think that they'll follow through on that? Probably not. The only way for Bernie Sanders to actually be able to get that sort of change is not by electing a Democrat, but by electing Bernie Sanders. Difficult, very unlikely, but still important.
Senator, I'm going to have to thank you. Stay safe in Vermont. We have to go to New York Governor Andrew Cuomo right now for his daily briefing. Thanks again, sir.
Damn. They just cut off Bernie to get the same goddamn daily briefing from Cuomo that you get every day. That's pretty up. So I just want you guys to watch this. I already watched this last night. I want you to see it. This is the introduction to The View. I just want you to understand like what kind of interview this is going to be before we start. It's going to be awful, okay? It's going to be cancerous. It's going to be terrible. Here, this will be a good prepper for you to understand exactly how bad this interview is going to be.
Answer accusations that he's politicizing the pandemic to push his Medicare for all agenda, and that staying in the race could guarantee Trump another term. He's live on The View. Next.
Is he politicizing a pandemic to push his Medicare for all agenda? Let's just analyze that statement. First of all, an accurate comparison to what that is, what that person is doing, what these demons are doing over on The View is basically when Republicans say gun control after an instance of a mass shooting. I don't think so. That's called politicization, sweetie, and you shouldn't do it. So that is same energy, same energy. It's not satire. That's what they think. It's insanely toxic. It's incredible how conservative it is. And it's also remarkable that they do not realize that they're doing the same thing Republicans do. And in this circumstance, they're advocating for the same position that Republicans are advocating for, which is reducing or at least keeping the social safety nets the same rather than expanding them in a time of a crisis that directly pertains to healthcare. It's not like Bernie Sanders is saying during this pandemic, what we need to focus on is, I don't know, offering tax credits to small businesses that are in the accounting field. He's politicizing a political situation that directly pertains to healthcare. Incredible to be like, wow, I can't believe he's politicizing this situation. Yeah, MLK is politicizing riots to push his civil rights agenda is a great comparison.
Back with Senator Bernie Sanders. He's joining us from his home in Vermont. Bernie, can you hear me? How you doing at home? What's this feeling like for you, this crazy isolation we're all living through?
It's nice. It's lovely to see. It's lovely to see that they are starting off with like the niceties when it's about to become not so nice. And then liberals will hop on this and say Bernie is being racist because Whoopi Goldberg is black. Bernie is being sexist because Whoopi Goldberg and everyone else on The View are women. It's great to have that sort of meat shield in that circumstance, the identity shield that you can apply no matter what the instance is. You just weaponize against your political opposition. In some instances, it's true. Some people are sexist. Some people are racist. But we now know that liberals like to use that against the left as well, regardless of what the left's position might be, regardless of the fact that the left is most likely, more often than not, more progressive than the liberals.
A lot of people are scared right now, and I think much of that is due to the misinformation that's floating out there, and a fair amount of that has come from the White House. What's the number one thing that keeps you up at night right now?
Trump, from the very beginning, downplayed the threat of this virus. The idea that today We have doctors and nurses all over this country who do not have masks that cost 50 cents or $1 a piece. Is unbelievable. We don't have enough ventilators, gloves, gowns. But right now we have to listen to the scientists. We have to maintain our social distancing. We need the world to cooperate to move as aggressively as we can.
Wow. The beautiful thing about listening to Bernie Sanders is that he also captures Joe Biden's talking points pretty effectively in the first 15 seconds of his conversation, which is we have to listen to the specialists and healthcare professionals, which overall is a pretty accurate summary of what Joe Biden says on repeat every single day on MSNBC over and over again.
Just let the experts speak and acknowledge whatever they suggest to him. Listen to the scientists and provide clear guidance.
So it's great. With Bernie, you get Joe Biden's summarization and then also additional stuff on top of that. You got to listen to specialist Jack.
$500 per kid. That's a start, not enough, but we got to get that money out right away. And we all right away. I want everybody to know that what we have done is...
What did he say? We'll do what right away? Bernie, I think in that circumstance, he said kill landlords. That's why they sent... He said, we'll kiss Castro right away. That's what he probably said. He said, we'll kiss Mao right away. We're going to kiss him. We're going to give Mao a bunch of kisses, okay? I love him. He's a very hot man, very hot guy, thick, tight. There's nothing you can do about it. We're going to kiss Cuban doctors. We're going to kiss Mao. We're going to kiss Fidel Castro. I'm going to tongue Stalin's asshole. Listen, you simps don't understand. You need to read between the lines, okay? You need to read between the lines of what Bernie doesn't say. Right now, he's saying, like, yeah, we need to give healthcare professionals, like, the proper protective gear that they need. We need to listen to the medical professionals. But what you're not hearing is he's actually saying, I love Stalinism, okay? What he's actually saying in this interview is, I love Stalin. The kulaks deserved worse. He's just saying all of that stuff. He's saying that Pol Pot wasn't such a bad guy. Like, that's what he's saying currently. And also was a communist. And that he loves communism.
Profit healthcare system is a failure. Can you explain why your Medicare for All plan would work better in this kind of scenario?
For two reasons. Number one, there is growing anxiety in this country that people are increasingly unable to afford health care or that they may not have any health care at all. Right now, before the epidemic, we were looking at 87 million people who were uninsured or underinsured. And now, when millions of people are losing their jobs, they're losing their health care. What do?
See, this is a big weakness in Bernie's rhetoric. I'm sorry. This is the moment where you guys get mad at me for being truthful with you about Bernie Sanders' big rhetorical weaknesses. At this point, like, Bernie has two options. He either stays the course and hits the same lines that he's hit a gajillion times over, which is dumb, and which is probably what Bernie's going to do, and he's doing it right now. Or what he could do is utilize what is going on right now in this environment to his benefit and directly mention what Joe Biden has said about the necessity for some federal guidelines in rural hospitals, or the necessity for some sort of federal level of regulation because of the competition that's going on right now that liberal sweetheart Andrew Cuomo has mentioned. But instead, he's just going to say, oh, well, it's bad because 68,000 people are, not getting access to healthcare. It's like, we know, dude. And they know, too. They've heard you a million times at this point. They don't give a f***. So what you have to do in this circumstance is get one of their idols and literally utilize the same things that they are saying right now and talk about how they agree with you, whether they realize it or not. But that's the truth. We have heard him say these numbers a million times over. Right now, he needs to utilize messaging that other people that are more favorable to liberal minds to say, these guys agree with me, whether they admit it or not. Andrew Cuomo cut millions of dollars from Medicaid, is still trying to cut millions of dollars from Medicaid. What is Andrew Cuomo saying when he's on TV every night? He's saying, I wish states did not have to compete with one another. That our healthcare system, yesterday, Andrew Cuomo said this, our healthcare system is balkanized. It's too separated. And what we have to do is federally regulated so that competition doesn't end up driving prices at a time when there are critical supplies that need to be distributed evenly. That's Andrew Cuomo. He's not politically aligned with me. That's what Bernie should say. He said, Andrew Cuomo, good guy. I have a lot of criticisms for him. I don't like that he cut, thousands of hospital beds in the state of New York. Even he agrees with me that we need some sort of federal regulation. Single payer is exactly that.
Go,
Senator,
Sarah.
This is Sarah. Just to push back on that a little bit, countries with universal health care
Please push back on that, Sarah. Please. For the love of Christ. I mean, definitely push back on that. With, by the way, the most Republican take you can have, too, by saying, well, countries with universal health care are not dealing with this crisis appropriately. It's like, okay, well, are they killing 100,000 people there? No. So shut the up. Thank you for playing devil's advocate.
routinely have to wait longer and sometimes die before receiving many of the medical treatments. Right now, if you can't afford...
Bro, this is literally, why can't we just ration healthcare by basis of class rather than deliver it evenly and ration it towards need? Like, that's literally what she's saying. Why can't we just ration healthcare by virtue of class? Because a lot of the wealthy people are going to die if we don't do that. Thank you, Sarah.
Afford it to wait because Corona isn't, they're having this, it's not something you can wait on healthcare for. So what would your counter be to why that would be beneficial right now?
So I don't accept the basic premise of your argument. I think the truth is that in Canada and other countries around the world, their healthcare systems are far more popular than our system is, because the function of our system, to be honest, is to make billions of dollars in profits for the insurance companies and the drug companies, not to provide quality care to all people.
Senator, some are accusing you of using the pandemic to push Medicare for all.
By some, she means me. I'm accusing you. I'm saying some because I'm a cowardly piece of shit. I mean, I am using this as an opportunity to attack you by claiming that you are politicizing this pandemic. It's so fucking insane. I already talked about this earlier when we looked into the intro. This is like when Republicans literally say, why are you politicizing this gun violence tragedy by offering comprehensive legislation that seeks to curb back gun violence dramatically? It is a Republican idea. It is a conservative take, but Americans, especially liberals who have been conditioned into thinking that we cannot have good things and we cannot have Medicare for all, we cannot have single payer insurance in this country, believe that this is somehow a different take, an enlightened one, because it's a liberal saying this.
Behind the president. What is your response to politicizing
Well,
this allegation
I think we should.
Everyone is politicizing?
Well, I don't know. Should we put politics aside and all come together? Of course we should. And when we all come together, it seems to me we have to do several things. One of them is guarantee health care to all people right now. And you go into the hospital and you spend thousands of dollars getting treated, and maybe, God willing, you come out alive. Well, you got a huge bill out there. The truth is that we have 500,000 people a year who go bankrupt because of medically related bills. So let us come together. You're absolutely right.
Bad answer. Again, going back to the same talking points. Once again, going back to the same talking points. Bad answer. Good answer in this circumstance to say, hell yes, I'm politicizing this. This is a political problem. The fact that we can't get Medicare for all in this country is absolutely a political problem. And then he should turn around and be like, this is exactly when conservatives say you're politicizing gun violence. Well, what am I supposed to do? I'm a politician. I'm supposed to do legislation. This is my job. So that's precisely what I'm doing. My job is to see a problem and try to fix it through legislation. That is 1,000% a better answer. That's exactly what he should be saying in this circumstance. Like, yeah, I'm politicizing it. The hell does politicizing mean? This is a healthcare crisis that we're under. So yeah, I'm doing my job as a politician, which is to advocate for the best interest of American citizens. The second part of that conversation, after he nails that, first you push back. First, you admit what you're doing. Secondly, you turn around and reframe the conversation back to them, flip it on its head and say, what you're saying is no different than what Republicans say, or not you, but whoever is saying this is probably a Republican, because this is exactly what Republicans say after gun violence, after mass shootings. Okay? Oh my God. Why are you politicizing this mass shooting? Well, it's a political problem that we don't have gun regulation in this country. Common sense gun regulation is a necessity. And then Lastly, you turn around and you say, here are the reasons why this is important. Because if you consider 100,000 people dying as a consequence of coronavirus like I do to be a gigantic problem, and I think it's a gigantic problem, then you should also have an answer for 68,000 people not having 68,000 additional people dying every year because they don't have access to healthcare in this country, not worldwide, just in this country alone, according to the Lancet study that came out recently. Like, that is how you tie that together.
Hey, we're back with Senator Bernie Sanders, and I'm told that you intend to stay in this race for president because you believe there is a path to victory. I want to know what that path is, because this feels a little bit like it did when you didn't come out when Hillary Clinton was clearly the person folks were going for. So can you explain why you're still in the race and what this path is that you see?
Well, one of the reasons, that's not quite accurate. I worked as hard as I could to for Hillary Clinton. But the reason there is a path
Bernie, just so we're clear, you worked for Hillary, but it took you a very, very long time to hop in, and your people also. It took a very long time for them to hop in. So when I say that, that's what I'm talking about.
Yeah, well, I don't accept that characterization. But the point is, people have a right.
Why are you still in the
democracy.
race?
Last I heard, people in a democracy have a right to vote, and they have a right to vote for the agenda that they think can work for America, especially in this very, very difficult moment.
But wouldn't it be smarter for you to continue on that path to make sure that gets done?
You should be like, listen, I don't come on your show and tell you how you do your job, Whoopi Goldberg. Why don't you defend Roman Polanski more, Whoopi Goldberg? Do you see me telling you not to defend Roman Polanski? No. So why won't you let me do my fucking job and you do your fucking job? Which, I might add, you're doing in a pretty poor fashion right about now. Wouldn't it be smarter? Wouldn't it be smarter if you dropped out of the race? Yeah. Let's just drop the only political leverage Bernie Sanders has in this circumstance, when there is literally a hostile entity that is falling apart, but still very openly and outwardly hostile to the progressive branch of the party. Let's just drop all the leverage and buckle. She's not low-key disrespectful. She's high-key disrespectful. She's just shitting all over him because she's a piece of shit, okay? Not only is it in their class interest to defend someone like Joe Biden, not only is it in their class interest not to rock the boat, but beyond that, they're also stupid, okay? Even if it wasn't in their class interest, they're dumb as all of these ladies on The View are really stupid, okay? They are.
There, a lot of the numbers show that the younger voters, who are much of your base, didn't really come out. Why do you think that is?
Several of my opponents kind of dropped out right before Super Tuesday.
Once again, cowardly ass take. Cowardly ass take, Bernie. Sorry. Everybody consolidated power. Everybody talked about how we got to stop Bernie Sanders. For a week after Nevada, everybody talked about how to stop Bernie Sanders. And this is actually important to talk about now. MSNBC compared Bernie Sanders to coronavirus. Which one is unstoppable? How do we stop Bernie Sanders and how do we stop coronavirus? Or was it CNN or not MSNBC? They did that. They compared him to Nazis every day for a week. Can either coronavirus or Bernie be stopped? They compared him to Nazis. They compared him to the coronavirus. They very openly floated the idea of hurting their chances of defeating Donald Trump exclusively so they can stop Bernie Sanders. They did this for a week. And then after that, Joe Biden won a predictable South Carolina victory as a consequence of Jim Clyburn propping him up, the kingmaker himself. And then everyone acted like this was completely out of left field, and then that this was it. And between South Carolina and Super Tuesday, there was 76 hours where the media operated as a super PAC and gave $100 billion worth of earned media that was positive to Joe Biden. That's 1/5 of what Michael Bloomberg spent for 2 months in Super Tuesday states. Or not 100 billion, sorry, 100 million. Did I say billion? Sorry, that's why, 1/5. Michael Bloomberg spent 500 million over 2 months on Super Tuesday states, Joe Biden got 100 million in just 76 hours.